Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Ellie Buttrose. I'm the Associate Curator for International Contemporary Art here at the Queensland Art Gallery and Gallery of Modern Art. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners, the Turrbal, the Jagera, and the Yagara people, and note that we're standing here on Aboriginal land that was not ceded in 1788 and will continue to be Aboriginal land. It is my great pleasure to introduce three wonderful artists. I've had an amazing year working with them and a great 10 days working with them to install this amazing piece that you're standing here in. I think what's great about this space is that you walk in and everything's around you and you're very aware of your body. Perhaps you could take us on a journey through the space and talk about how, what it's like to walk through the space and how you put it together.
Well, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you the team here. They've been a great help to help us to put this show together in such a short time. It was an amazing experience for the three of us. The three of us working together as it's been the 7 years that we've been working and living together in Dubai. Yes, the body is very important for us. This is why we try to cover every bits and details of our surroundings. So when you come into space, we try to engage you and engage your body. So as you step into the space, you are, you start like looking at the floor, at the ceiling, all around you. So there is this performative body engagement, and this space almost becomes complete by your presence in the space. And this is the theatrical aspect of our kind of practice, which kind of also refers back to
the first thing is at the first step you walk on a painting, so the feeling that you walk on a painting, so it's start to grow something inside each person. So the first thing is that, and then how we choreograph the viewer, spectator to move around the space.
I can start from 6 years ago. We three of us doing our own individual practices, and from one point we saw when you exhibit your work in a white cube spaces, actually you kind of destroy the landscape, because they belongs to the ambience, which is we think is part of it. So we started to build the ambience, which been faithful to the
where the artwork actually was
created. Yeah. So also the spaces that we kind of design for ourselves, that self-ritual which we daily practicing it, it's a space which we call it home, but it's a spectrum between the library, museum, artist studio, film set, and different parts of this space belongs to the different moods of our body,
Because your studios are in one house, you all live together and work together, and you have your own collection on display and your own practices and your collaborative practices on display. And I think that's what's so wonderful about the space that you've created here, is that you've brought the context of where these works are made to the gallery. And you've brought artists that you're in dialogue with into the gallery, and that's a very generous act. Perhaps you could tell us a bit about your method of collaborating and how it's quite a wide and broad way of collaboration, and perhaps tell us about some of the works on display.
One of the basic, the first law that we have for between us, we never destroy the other person's idea. Usually, if you put an idea, and then I will put the idea on top of it, not to destroy that one, to put my own idea. So everything accumulates on top of each other. That's why you can see sometimes it's become a sculpture. We don't call it sculpture. It's like a assemblage or accumulation of different objects from our props, from the movies. They come on top of each other, so become something like a
we call them accumulations.
Yeah.
And the practice, we always call them, every time actually we use we always mean we as all the people that are involved in the practice that we are doing. That we also includes the technicians that also helped us to put this exhibition together. And the very obvious example of it was when we asked the technicians to bring us TVs to install here. They brought it the same way that it is installed here, back to back on this trolley. When they brought it here, we said, you know what, let's just keep it this way, because, and on the same trolley. And this was the very reason of it, was because every time after every exhibition, the technician's landscape vanishes from every exhibition. And so we thought, like, they are part of this exhibition. They're helping us to put, all this up, and they are part of that we always mention. And this part of collaborations that we always do, and this accumulation of ideas, they also participate in that accumulation of ideas. We always ask them, what do you think of how should we do this and how should we do that? So they are actually adding to the ideas, and so we kept it this way, and they are part of this.
And then the other artists that are also in the space as well?
Yeah, the point of our routine and our collaboration is to to provoke a kind of search for an art into the audience, so we kind of trying to equalizing the space, and based on that accumulation, which is report and a condition. For example, if all of us, work, and when that work become an artwork, or all the objects, we are surrounded by so many objects, and all these objects augmented during the years, and we have only one world. So we are trying to make the space in some kind for the people to interact with with kind of sensibility of finding the art, to find, to
what they consider as art.
Yeah.
Rather than we tell them that this is art, they could consider it as an object, or they could just consider it as art. And the artists that are, back to your question, the artists that are in our exhibition that we put here are, they are from we consider them, this is what we kind of look at, they're from the margins of the market. And we look into the margins of the market, and that's where we collect them from. we find works that are really there.
But we put this discipline that whatever you earn
Earn
in art, we
spend
spend it
back
back
to
to
the
art.
art.
So to have this circulation all the
And
time.
there,
And why did you choose these artists for the Asia Pacific Triennial?
We based most of it is based on portrait, to how to we select the works, mostly the ones that's portrait based.
And
One
they're
of them
all,
is-
and what we collect, they're we always call them that they are the self-portrait of us. And so we just, this was really one of the reasons that we brought them here. So, and for just one example of it was that we brought Martha Wilson because it was called Asia Pacific Art, and Martha Wilson is an American artist, so we just thought that maybe has nothing to do with here, so she should maybe be here. So we just put her in the exhibition.
And you have a great sense of improvisation. We had a plan, but the plan was to be very open. Could you tell us a bit about the way you work and how you gather and collect things? There's, I mean, we've spoken a couple of times about the methodology of theatre and how that methodology of taking things around you and bringing them together. Could you perhaps talk about your working method, how it all comes together? How does this end up looking like this?
Maybe we should do a poem. Yeah. It's a matter of time sometimes, you know, we can talk about that time.
You know, I think it's about, you know, our practice is about to make the spectrums, you know, not to questioning the system of the binary, you know. So I think one of the reason that we choose Martha Wilson is again about that, you know, why we should make this huge event, and when we can, you know, talk about the artists which are they are fit into the context of the show, you know. So or we think that it's you know, they work, this object by them is helping for everybody to have a vast, bigger picture, you know, in the multi-directions. So this multi-directional acts is, we all have, you know, we feel it because it's sometimes day, when we start the day, it's completely, you know, you started with some moods and you end it with the completely opposite. So we have that, we are in the spectrum of the, you know, being an artist or, you know, or the achievement and the failure, you know. So we are trying to be in that zone all the time. So that's why we, you know, we have to be open about the chance, about the things that around us. So we need a comprehension of everything, you know. So everything should be important. All the non-important things are important, you know. So we are trying to be in that mood or you know, spectrum all the time.
Could you perhaps tell us about the work in the alcove there, the video work? And
I can talk a little bit about the floor.
Okay.
Yeah, the floor is, you know, that engaging the body. We were talking about you know, the floor is. We inspired by the first chapter of the Satanic Verses, which is about the fall, and two
It's about the plane crash that
Plane
you
crash.
see, and then the plane crash, they're all people that flying from the sky to the water at that wall. And then the story is about two angels that they are coming down, and then they intercount with they cross the
plane crash.
Boston air that is already crashed, and people are floating on the.
And it's quite a poetic text, that first chapter, and you have
Beautiful
And
text.
yeah.
And we think it's very, it's related to our practice in terms of the equalizing. You know, that aeroplane, airport atmosphere is a kind of all of us become equal. You know, so we have some stuff that they are made of plastic or they are very light, and all of us using it in that big cigar.
and it describes falling and a sense of destabilization.
Yeah.
And that comes up quite a lot in many different ways in your practice.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that's important to for the engaging the body of the spectator or the audience is to decenter them, and then because we are looking for the mood of to searching for art, you know, so searching for something to evoke their sensibility, you know, kind of sensibility. So we started, when you walk on the paintings, you are part of the painting, so you don't have that fetish, you know, that fetish of the artwork destroyed, you know, so you are part of it, you are crossing that fall, you know, you are an angel, you know, you become, when you're looking at the wall, that psychedelic patterns, you know, it against makes you decentered, so that's a thing for start.
So the audience becomes part of the work in this space, but there's also characters that are becoming other characters, humans becoming animals.
Or us, we become maids.
Yes.
Yeah, or
could you...
Or another thing is that we become, you know, sometimes we become collectors, and you have you have a different
Why is that important for you, to be constantly
because we are
role-changing?
constantly questioning the art world, you know, these huge spaces which occupied with one person who called himself an artist, you know. So that kind of ego which involved in these spaces is important, you know, to question, you know, sometimes, you know, I do think, we do think that, you know, it's a time for some responsibility for artists to think about these matters, you know, maybe questioning the self, you know.
I think the artists are responsible.
No.
And could you tell us a bit about the role of the maids? Because you talk about yourself almost in the service of art. And the video we see, you're wearing maids' costumes while you're painting this floor, but then you play out Jean Genet's The Maids.
It's, the maids also came from, sometimes, you know, our idea came from a joke or very banal kind of moments. But in the one point, you know, it started long time ago when, you know, when you're looking at the Iran modern movement, you know, modernist movement, you know, you see that all the time, you know, in the East, we are looking at the West and we trying to imitate the West. So actually the things that produce is the second-handed of the thought. So it's a second-handed thought. So it's not modern in terms of the interruption or, you know, so we found it, that movement castrated, you know, so we try to find it in three of us. Is the Jean Genet's Maids is a best example of playing with the power And when
Can you tell
becoming
tell
the
the
others.
audience what happens in that play? Who,
it's a
very shortly.
it's a beautiful
The story starts at the home of the at the bedroom of the madame, and there's a madame and two sisters that they are maids at the house, and then they start to they're wearing the costume of the madame, and one of them becoming the madame is not at the house, so they're wearing her jewelry and the dress, and then one of them becoming madame and the other one becoming the other sister. So they're all the time during the whole play they change their role.
Yeah. And both of them they are maids, but one of them role playing the mother, and she believed that she's the mother, and start to dictate the
And so it's a play about power and role changing, and how, and so.
So actually, we thought that in that context, if we consider ourselves as an artist, that term of the art in the East, mostly the art, came from the craftsmanship. So that kind of sense of craft with the artists, we are trying to play. We rather to be a maid, then we can questioning the to be and what is the meaning of the artist and what is the meaning of the artist in our time,
Because you don't have a collective name, and that's quite important as part of your collaboration.
Yeah. One of the things is that we don't want to be a system or showing any kind of
Because I think that
dictate ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that we don't have a name is because we came together just, I mean, we started working together just like very naturally. We formed this way, and this really came together. We didn't come together and say, oh, let's become a collective and let's do this. It was just, this is how we came together, and this is how we started just like working together and living together, and this is how everything started happening, and that's why there was never a name. We never even thought about it.
And so many people, the other people, involved in this.
There's so many people. Yeah,
And
always.
the movie also, the movies that we made, there's 3 of them that.
The people which we live with, the people, the
friends that are not really practicing art, or they are practicing art. I mean, they're.
Or the artists which we admire, or we think that we they can have a dialogue with us, or they have something to say which I want to share with the other people, that particular kind of work or message. So instead of I started to put depict something or say something similar to that art object, I'd rather to put that object inside the work, inside the exhibition.
Do you perhaps want to talk about some of the videos
Yeah, of course.
that people
This
are
is
enjoying?
Akandi.
Yeah.
Which one is that?
There's a movie called Akandi. It's about there's a Tamil Sri Lankan couple that lives with us in Dubai, and the point that we start this movie because in Dubai, one of the good things that there is no dominant language, so everybody has their own language, but they have a very good communication with each other.
We communicate with each other with with kind of broken English, or body language is involved. So that head of the scope, as accumulation, is actually.
We had a carpenter over, and we
don't
had
know
a really
English,
he couldn't.
We don't know Indian language. Our English is broken, so
we couldn't really explain to him what we really need, and so we started actually dancing for him, like how we need to have this head to be made. So we started like telling him, this is something that we need to go on the back of that elephant head. And he just took the elephant head and he took it, and he came back like after like 2 weeks, he came back with this, and we loved it, and it was amazing. So this is how he just came and he made it and he brought it back to us. So
so the Akandi, for the Akandi, we started to collect all the poetry of the Tamil in exile.
Tamil type,
And
poets.
because the couple which live with us, the husband is he was a fighter for the Tamil Tigers when he was young. So we started to collect these poems, and based on those poems, we start to build the kind of hospital inside the corridor of our house. And the video is about communicating with that body language. So there's with that broken English, they started to explain their history.
The history of the fight between Tamil and Sri Lankan people.
The history of Sri Lanka.
And the way that we communicate in the house is inside it. So there's
Does anybody have any questions? We probably just have time for just a couple.
I've been able to watch your video the whole time you've been talking, which is totally amazing. There's a particular authenticity about your video with the objects, particularly that you use in the video, and you make the objects very authentic in this video. Somehow standing in this space, they become a little bit stagnant for me, like it's too much of an art gallery. I mean, have you thought about that?
Some of the objects are, we call them props. They are the props of the movies, and this is the reason we are actually putting them here. They're just the props. We don't call them sculptures or anything. They are the props of the movies.
Yeah,
So
in that sense, one of the things when we arrived here, we saw the space from the pictures. So they were very small, everything were small. For us, when we came here, we were fascinated by the scale of the architecture, so that it's like a huge veil, that you all the holes and so I think that feeling came from the architect because architecture of the space, and part of our plan was to improve how we can interact with this fantastic architecture, so that's why I think that feeling came from that, because we have it, for 5 days we were talking about whether we should paint this wall or not, that's a huge, fantastic wall here. Yeah, because we every day practicing that's our life,
also the videos,
and all the videos happen in the house, so there are,
Just about the styles that you see there. So there's a lot of individually distinct styles, and you guys said you like to accumulate with a lot of the works. So I'm wondering, how did each of you guys specifically contribute in the sense that we see a lot of distinct styles? Which ones are which, in a sense, for you guys?
Yes, first, the thing that we are looking for is the form, so there's all these things, if you call whole area a thing, so the nothing of it is its form. So, if this form practices by the other people or by the other artists is make the style, Otherwise, that style is the way that you are living or thinking or wearing the dress. That's a little bit different than. So we don't looking at the style in that term as you mentioned. We're trying to find first it should find its form.
When you practice with other people during the passing the time, maybe it becomes style. Sometimes it's becoming, it's going to dead.
I get a sense of the 1920s, 30s surrealist type movement. Are any of these major influences? Like, you seem to be united with some of that sense of, you know, sort of using dreams as a basic type of influence, and then sort of converting that into some sort of a representation, but all the while being influenced by something like, say, dreams. I think of, you know, the 1920s type movement in surrealism. Do you find any of that as a connecting thread in your works?
Of course, yeah.
The Dada movement, the
the Dada
surrealism,
movement.
yeah.
They are part of
The exquisite parts.
They are part of the body which we are practicing, and we comprehend ourselves with that, you know.
We carry them on our shoulders.
You know, we all kind of studied them all. I mean, they are part of us, I think.
That's
I
the
mean,
thing we call it home, you know. That's that artist, that knowledge of comprehending the world, you know.
And I think Jean Genet, when he was very interested in ceremony rather than theatre, and he said the thing about ceremonies is that people often wear many symbols and become symbols. It's not about the realism that sometimes you see in theatre, but ceremonies about the accumulation of symbols, and I think that seems to be fitting for your work as well, something that you take many different symbols and accumulate them together in this large exhibition.
That's
I think we're going to have to wrap up, sorry, but I'm sure the artists would be happy to speak to you afterwards. Did you want to say any last words? Read any poems?
you can read that poem if you want.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want me to?
Okay.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay. It continues.
All right.
Maybe we can all read a bit.
No, you can read that.
It's one of our code between us while we are working. You know, this is a code by Jean Genet, which we keep repeating to ourselves and keep continuing it, you know. The base of our practice is about to continue, you know, and based on that, you can,
Based on that, we live.
5 or 6 kids were playing war games in the park. They were divided into 2 troops and were preparing the attack. Night, they said, was coming on, but the sky showed it was midday. They therefore decided that one of them would be night. The youngest and the frailest transformed into something elemental, became the master of the fray. He was the hour, the moment, the ineluctable. He approached, it seemed, from a long way off, with the calm of a natural cycle, but weighed down with the sadness and solemnity of the gloaming. As he drew near the others, the men became nervous and uneasy. The boy was arriving too soon for them. He was before his time. So, by common consent, the troops and the chiefs decided to eliminate night, and he returned into being a soldier on one of the sides. It is only on the basis of this formula that theatre could thrill me. Jean Genet.